You ever wake up thinking it's just another day and then bam, something so petty, so absurd hits you that you almost spit out your coffee? That's how it started for me. I was pouring my second cup on a freezing January morning, still in that half-awake fog, and my phone buzzed. Violation notice, immediate action required. I swear I actually laughed out loud, thought it was a joke at first. But nope, it was dead serious. And that's when my day, maybe even my whole winter, got hijacked by the Meadowbrook Hills Homeowners Association. I guess I should back up for a second. I'm Henry. My wife Jennifer and I moved out here to Neatville, Illinois a few years back. We thought we'd finally made it. Good house, nice yard, quiet subdivision, the American dream and all that. The trees on the street, the neighborly waves, the promise that we were somewhere a little more civilized than our cramped city condo. But here's what they don't tell you in the realtor's pamphlet. Every paradise has a self-appointed queen. Ours was Patricia, the kind of person who probably alphabetizes her spices and thinks reasonable flexibility is a sign of weakness. The HOA under her watch. Let's just say the rule book was more like Holy Scripture. So there I was reading this email from Patricia, my blood pressure spiking with every sentence. A $500 fine because apparently snowdrifts, yes, snow, as in the stuff that literally falls from the sky, were blocking the neighborhood's decorative entrance sign. The kicker. They attached photos time-stamped at dawn showing the sign half buried after a blizzard, like I was out there at 3 a.m. pushing snow around for fun. Now look, I'm not a slob. Every time it snowed, I'd be out there with my snowblower. I cleared my driveway, my sidewalk, even the old folks' walkways on both sides. I'm that guy. I actually like things neat. But Patricia and her little board, they expected me to control the wind. I mean, come on. You can't tell Mother Nature what to do. If you could, Patricia probably would. Jennifer comes into the kitchen, sees my face, and asks, "What's wrong?" I show her the email. She reads it, does that thing where her eyebrows shoot up and says, "Are they serious?" And honestly, that was the moment it hit me just how nuts this was. But also I felt this weird urge like I wanted to fight it. Not just for me, but for everyone who's ever had to deal with someone like Patricia. I spent an hour writing a response. I tried to keep it calm, Explained how I couldn't control the wind. Pointed out that the sign wasn't even technically on my property. Reminded her that I'd done my part, and then some. Didn't matter. 2 hours later, Patricia replied, condescending, snippy, citing rules and covenants like she was channeling a lawyer. According to her, since my house was the closest to the sign, it was my job to keep it clear no matter what. At that point, I did what any self-respecting neighbor does. I called Tom. Tom lived 2 doors down, the kind of guy who always has a beer in the fridge and a story about the good old days before Patricia. He'd been on the HOA board before she took over, back when people used common sense. We stood in his garage, yes, with beers, even though it was barely noon, grumbling about mailbox fines, Christmas light violations, and the general misery Patricia had unleashed. "You got a few options," Tom said. "You can pay and roll over. You can fight it, which is hard since Patricia runs the dispute process too. Or, and here's where he grinned, you can do exactly what they ask for. Malicious compliance. Give them what they want, just enough to make them regret it." I'll admit I didn't get it at first. But as Tom talked, the idea started to take shape. If Patricia wanted to play the letter of the law, fine, let's play. I went home, dug out the actual HOA covenants, all 47 pages of legalese. I read every word this time like my wallet depended on it. And you know what? The rules were vague, reasonable efforts, subject to weather conditions. Nowhere did it say I had to be a human snowplow for the HOA's signs. I called Marcus, a lawyer buddy of mine from Chicago. He actually laughed when I told him, "Henry, this is classic HOA overreach. That language is so vague a judge would toss it." He told me not to pay, to document everything. If they try to put a lien on your house, you'll want a record. That's when I started playing by Patricia's rules. The next snow, I waited until noon to clear my driveway, just my driveway. Not the sidewalks, not the neighbors, and certainly not the entrance sign. Jennifer watched, worried. "Are you sure?" she asked. I just nodded. No more extra credit for the HOA. Predictably, Patricia lost her mind. Another email, another threat of a fine, this time for not clearing the sidewalks promptly. I shot back with a copy of the covenant, pointed out I was still well within the reasonable time frame for snow removal. Then, I cleared my sidewalk. Mrs. Peterson, my elderly neighbor, poked her head out and looked kind of lost. I hated seeing that. I told her I'd still help, just quietly for her, not the HOA. I kept receipts, took photos, wrote down dates like I was building a case. The snow kept falling. Drifts by the sign piled up higher every week. I stuck to the bare minimum, even as it started to look kind of ridiculous sign, almost completely buried, just the tip poking out. Then Patricia came knocking. Literally. Showed up on my porch face, red arms crossed, demanding I clear the signs or pay $1,000. I stayed calm. Quoted the rules right back at her, reasonable efforts, weather conditions, all of it. She threatened. I called her bluff, said I had a lawyer. Jennifer stepped in too, asking if Patricia was threatening us. Patricia just stormed off, probably plotting her next move. And she did escalate. Sent me a formal notice, said the fine was now $1,500, threatened a lien on my house. I filed an official dispute. Meanwhile, Tom and a few other neighbors started organizing. Turns out I wasn't the only one. People had been fined for grass too long, paint fading a mailbox half an inch off. We started meeting in Tom's garage, plotting our own little rebellion. The problem was Patricia controlled the board. She'd filled it with her friends Susan and Linda, two people who nodded at everything she said. Tom explained that the only real way to change anything was through the annual election coming up in March. Seemed like forever to wait, but what else could we do? So I kept documenting, kept complying, bare minimum, nothing extra. The HOA hearing rolled around on Valentine's Day. Oh, the irony. Marcus came with me. The whole setup felt like a bad courtroom drama. Patricia, at the head of the table, her cronies flanking her, about 15 neighbors in folding chairs. I made my case, laid out the documentation, the actual covenant language, weather reports, photos, the works. Patricia barely listened. Declared the fine stood, told me I had 2 weeks or else. But this time something shifted. Marcus spoke up calmly but firmly, pointing out the legal holes in Patricia's argument. Tom and a few others jumped in too, sharing their own stories. Some neighbors spoke in favor of Patricia, but most were sick of her tactics. Of course, the board still voted against me, no surprise there. But leaving that meeting, I felt less alone. Other people had seen through her act. The next blizzard was brutal. 14 inches overnight drifts everywhere. The entrance sign was completely buried. Delivery trucks missed the neighborhood. The mailman got lost. Even the city plows made things worse, pushing more snow up against the signs. And still, Patricia actually called me at home, demanding I clear it. I told her politely but firmly to show me where it said I had to clear HOA property. She hung up on me. Then I got a threatening note on my door. Took a picture, filed a police report just to be safe. After 5 days with the entrance still blocked, Patricia finally caved. She hired a professional snow removal company. I heard she tried to stick me with the bill, but the management company shut that down. Election season came and Tom's group put up 3 candidates. I stayed out of it, didn't want to make it all about me, but I was rooting hard. Ballots went out, neighbors started whispering. Then just before the meeting, a reporter from the local paper called. He'd heard about the mess. Apparently several neighbors had reached out. I hesitated but figured maybe some publicity would help. He wrote a story and it exploded in the local Facebook group. The annual meeting was packed. Over 150 people showed up. I'd never seen anything like it. When they read the results, the gym erupted. Tom won the presidency. His team swept the board. Patricia went pale, then red, then just grabbed her stuff and left without a word. Her allies slunk off after her. I'd never seen a room so relieved. The new board met the next week. First order of business, reviewing fines. They threw out mine unanimously. Even issued an apology, covered my legal fees. And just like that, the cloud over the neighborhood lifted. They hired a proper snow removal company for the next winter. Everyone chipped in a little extra. Nobody complained. Tom ran meetings with respect and common sense. The place actually felt like a community again. A few months later, Patricia sold her house and moved away. Jennifer and I heard about it over iced tea on the back deck. She laughed, said good riddance. I couldn't have agreed more. That next winter, when the snow came, I went right back to my old ways, helping Mrs. Peterson, waving at Mike down the street, clearing a little extra because I wanted to, not because I was scared. And when the snow buried the entrance signs again, the pros took care of it. No drama, no threats, just life the way it should be. Tom came by one night with a bottle of wine, told me he was grateful I'd stood up. If you hadn't fought back, we'd all still be stuck with her. I shrugged it off, but it meant a lot. Sometimes it just takes one person saying enough to get things moving. As time passed, things kept getting better. The board changed policies, focused on real issues, not nitpicking people's paint or grass. The neighborhood even got recognized by the city for community excellence. Crime dropped, property values went up, and people were actually happy to live here again. Every now and then, someone new would move in and tell me they'd heard about the Snowdrift saga. It became almost a legend. Not because of the snow, but because people here had learned something: when you let fear and power trips take over, everyone suffers. But if you stand up, push back, build a little coalition, things change. So what's the lesson I'll tell you? It isn't about snow or signs or covenants. It's about people. Authority is only as good as the folks who wield it. If they forget they're supposed to serve, not rule, it all goes sideways. But if you stand your ground, keep your receipts, and get a few neighbors on your side, even the pettiest little tyrant can be toppled. I'll never forget that morning, coffee in hand, heart pounding, thinking my life was about to get a whole lot harder. I was right. But I was also wrong. Because out of that headache came something better. A community for real. Neighbors who look out for each other. Rules that make sense. And the deep, bone-deep satisfaction of knowing I didn't back down. So let me ask you, have you ever gone head-to-head with someone on a power trip? When do you decide it's time to push back? Is it worth the fight, or do you let it slide? I'd love to hear what you do, or what you've done, if you found yourself in my shoes. Because trust me, it's not just about snow. It's about standing up together for what's right.